Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to a weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Mark Elridge. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is Dr. James Bridgers from the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Program Administrator, Public Health, Emergency Preparedness and Response, also for the Department of Health and Human Services. We have three special guests today, two council members, Councilmember Gabe Albornoz, as well as Councilmember Sidney Katz. And joining us as well is Lieutenant Dan Helton from the Montgomery County Police Department. They're here to talk about the new program to help add private security cameras in our community. And with that, good afternoon. Welcome back. Great to see you, Mr. County Executive.
Good to be back, and happy to be back on the briefings again. I'm going to talk a little bit about our economic development missions, to India and Vietnam. I think, as a lot of you know, I led the Montgomery County delegation to India and Vietnam, and we were looking for new companies to do business here, as well as for opportunities for our companies to do business there. And so we brought over about 20 companies. And along with our a couple of people from our economic development staff and Bill Tompkins from the Economic EDC Corporation. And we met with a lot of different companies, and we met with Indian and Vietnamese government people. We met with folks running incubators. We had conversations with universities, and we were looking for opportunities, both for our companies to see opportunities in these two countries and find partners, and some of them were able to do that. And we were looking for people that we find would be interested in coming back here. We signed 11 MOUs so far with companies interested in expanding here. We're expecting 2 more to follow. We had a really strong focus on IT and bio. But there's even some manufacturing that we talked to, and we've signed an MOU with, and hopefully will lead to bringing a manufacturing facility here to the county. These MOUs mean the companies are committed to opening an office or establishing operations here in the county. And in exchange, the county is going to do what we do for our own companies. We offer a soft landing support to help companies make the move and begin initial operations when they come over to Montgomery County. So we're taking our program, expanding it to this international audience. The trips were pretty much, it was like 2 weeks of 12 and 14-hour days, which was fairly brutal. But it was, I'd say, really positive for us to be there and meet people. People there were very gracious, both countries, both at the government level, the business level, and just the community level. And it gave us an opportunity to have one-on-one connections with people who were looking to expand their businesses. Like I said, we focused on IT and biotech, and there's a lot of interest there. As we talked about the Institute for Health Computing, a lot of the folks in biotech, and frankly in the IT space, see the importance of the work we want to do in artificial intelligence and machine learning, not only applied to bioscience, but also applied to the world of IT in general. So there was a real interest in that. And we talked a lot about, what it would be like to come to Montgomery County, that if you come here, why should you come here? And we talked about the diversity of Montgomery County and the fact that, we're 1 in 6 people in Montgomery County is Asian now. We're home to probably more than 120 languages. This is a very multicultural environment, and that you're going to be able to find people, things to do, restaurants that you're familiar with in Montgomery County. And a lot of people were aware of the reputation we had, and it also helped that the businesses that we brought over there were often headed by Indians or by people from Vietnam. So there was a lot of connection we were able to make. So I was excited about it. And I think when Judy Costello gets back, we will give you a deeper briefing into what, who we talked to and what kind of projects we're looking at. Talk about the community security camera rebate program. Today's the start of the effort to help provide further protection to our communities. The police private security camera incentive program will improve public safety by helping people who live in high priority areas qualify for rebates on the cost of a new security camera. The camera program would provide up to $250 for households installing one camera, or $1,250 for 5 cameras for businesses and nonprofits. And we signed the bill into law in the summer of 2022. We wanted to give investigators more resources for solving crimes that occur in areas with fewer security cameras. And we know from our own experience that cameras have been useful. Police often will go into a neighborhood and see who had a Ring camera on, who had a security camera on, if they want to know, who might have been on the street when a particular crime was committed. So we know these cameras, informal as they are can be really useful to adding to the security of communities. I've been a big advocate of using technology to make our communities safer. So if you go to downtown Silver Spring, you see a lot more cameras. We're using license plate readers that have been able to instantly identify vehicles, for example, that are wanted for being stolen. And we believe it helps reduce the incidence of crime by identifying these vehicles before they've been able to do something further. And there are also more police officers who are monitoring video feeds to help officers in the field track down suspects and address the crimes more quickly. And I think, we've, just had an approval of the drone camera program, which will also be, further assistance to the police department. None of the private cameras we help purchase will provide live feeds, but they will be registered. So if they're useful in an investigation, we'll be able to get access to the video. The program is separate from our successful nonprofit security grants. Those funds have been allocated to nonprofits and religious groups that are targets of potential hate and bias incidents and want to add security measures like cameras. Montgomery County Police Department was asked to develop public safety indicators to help determine which areas are prioritized and qualify for rebates. The plan is to play for a little over 1,000 cameras that we expect to be spread out across the county. And you can see from this map, the purple areas are the priority areas. Police have shared a map showing which zones have been approved for the rebates. That includes a lot of Gaithersburg, Germantown, Montgomery Village addresses, as well as selected areas in North Bethesda, Wheaton, downtown Silver Spring, small areas like Olney and Damascus, and some areas in the Route 29 corridor. I have 3 guests with me today who want to explain more about the program. And so first, let me welcome Council Member Cindy Katz, who serves as the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and Councilmember Gabe Albornoz, who sponsored this legislation, before we hear from Lieutenant Dan Helton, who's with MCPD. So welcome, gentlemen, and Sydney, you can start.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Executive, and thank you for your involvement in this legislative program. I want to very publicly thank Councilmember Gabe Albornoz, who was a person who helped lead this legislation, as well as former Councilmember Craig Rice. My current Chief of Staff is Sharon Lettner, and she was Craig's Chief of Staff prior to coming to my office. And I believe that Sharon has painstakingly made certain that this legislation will go forward, did go forward, and it's actually going to be in fruition. As you've already pointed out, the various programs, what this program will do, it'll deter criminal activity as well as help in solving crimes. There's priority areas. I can tell you from a very personal standpoint, I have rings at my house, and thank goodness we've never had a concern. You do get to see some deer come and visit. You do get to see some rabbits come and visit in the backyard. But you also, I know a neighbor, I've had this happen, neighbors who have not had rings have come to our house and said, last night somebody came up to my car, nothing was taken, but can I look at your video? So it is something that is needed. I believe that the people that will utilize these, the businesses and the residents, will find that they are truly the right thing to do and a comforting thing to do. And with that, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Albornoz, please.
Thank you, Chairman Katz, and I appreciate those comments. And certainly connect with everything that our county executive mentioned, and was proud to work with Councilmember Rice in co-leading this legislation, which had unanimous support from our colleagues. We know that our police department continues to be understaffed, and they are doing the best that they can to spread those resources evenly throughout the county. But as we have continued to see a rise in criminal activity post-COVID, it's now more important than ever that we provide as many tools at their disposal to be able to investigate and close cases. And we also know that this is a preventative measure as well, and that it provides peace of mind to both our residents and constituents. And I think that we have enacted this legislation in a manner that is thoughtful, focusing on those zip codes where we have a higher concentration of challenges in the criminal space. So we look forward to the enactment of this program, and we will be studying it to see how it goes and see if it is necessary for us to expand it. But we want to make sure that in this first phase that it goes to the areas where it's the most needed. Es un honor de placer de representar el condado y trabajar con mis colegas en el consejo. Esta legislación estoy seguro que va a ayudar a prevenir crimen y va a ayudar a los oficiales de la policía a cerrar casos y investigaciones. Sabemos que estas cámaras a veces son caros, así que esto va a ayudar a residentes y a negocios. Así que vamos a dar más información sobre cómo pueden participar en este programa, pero este programa va a ser bien importante para la comunidad entera. Gracias.
Thank you, council members. Lieutenant Helton.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity to spread the word here. Part of our mission with the police department is to work in partnership with the community to identify and resolve issues that impact public safety. I think that this program is exactly putting those words into action by incentivizing this installation of these cameras. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully in a short period of time depleting all the money, all the funds we've been set aside for the initial phase of these cameras, and to really be able to have some success stories to share of how these cameras help to enhance investigations, to make arrests, or to keep the community safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Members of the media, we're going to open it now for the Q&A portion of this topic. I see Heather Kurtz has her hand up. Please do raise your hand. We'll take questions regarding this program, other questions towards the end of this presentation. All right, Heather, go ahead. WMAL Radio.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this and for taking my questions. I have a few kind of quick questions about the rebate program. I'm wondering, people in these areas who already have these cameras, can they apply for some sort of retroactive rebate if they still have the receipt?
No.
Oh, sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I think we both said the same thing.
That's right.
Got it. And are there certain brand restrictions on these? Will they need to be Ring or Arlo or any of those things, or just any camera?
Would you like to speak to that, sir?
Yeah, you can do the technical stuff.
All right, you do. So no, we did not endorse any brand. We kept it general enough, and it's in the click. If you go to the website, there's an FAQ, and it kind of gets into that a little bit more. We didn't want to fence it in too tight. It's pretty general. It needs to be all-weather camera, capable of being posted, installed on the exterior of the building, be able to record digital video, stuff like that. So there's a lot of cameras that are sold, at stores in the county or online. So it gives folks a pretty good option if they want to do it.
And, I know a lot of people who you have cameras and then they're not even that old and people replace them and get new ones. Is there any possibility for people who have cameras that aren't totally outdated to donate theirs for people to use?
Yeah, that hasn't come up yet. I mean, there's always, we could look at that as we move on, but right now this is opportunity for folks to get a new camera and to get the rebate to help cover the purchase of up to $250 to camera.
Sure. And do you have any idea, Lieutenant Helton, what percentage of cases you've been able to solve or get some good tips from by using this security camera footage?
I don't. I know that they are very helpful. So the more cameras we get out there, I think it's really going to help make an impact. Because whenever there is any type of crime, officers will do an area canvas of a particular neighborhood or areas and, try to find witnesses. Well, now we can definitely look for those cameras, and having a list of folks who have these particular cameras with this program, that's really going to help, narrow down that evidence or a particular tool that's being used in helping that case advancement. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be good.
And I have one last thing, if I may. County Executive, you spoke a little bit about how they're not going to be, there isn't some live stream going to the police department. Right. If somebody does have one of these cameras and does, suspect that they may have caught something, or if police suspect the person may have caught something, how do you go about collecting the footage?
I'll let Dan answer that question because that's the link to the police.
So we would treat it just like we do any other camera footage for folks who have cameras now. We treat it just as evidence and put through our evidence, basically the way we log in evidence for any type of case. So we have that capability.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Jacqueline Quijano, Telemundo 44 DC. Good afternoon, Jacqueline.
Good afternoon. I'm Jacqueline Quijano from Univision, Washington. I have a question for Concejal Gabe Albornoz en español. ¿Quiénes serían, concejal, quienes apliquen para poder tener estas cámaras? ¿Desde cuándo? ¿Y qué monto económico serían los que beneficiarían?
Gracias por esa pregunta. Así que residentes que tienen viviendas en estas áreas que ha identificado la policía pueden aplicar para este programa, y negocios también pueden aplicar. Es hasta $250 para aplicar por cámara, y hay un límite de 5 cámaras por negocios. Pero estoy seguro que los fondos se van a ir rápido, así que es importante, si vives en una de estas áreas, que mandes su aplicación lo más pronto posible.
¿Sería únicamente para negocios o también para viviendas en general?
Para viviendas también, los dos.
Gracias.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Pardon me, Univision DC. Dave Laval, I believe you're with DC News Now. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, folks, and thanks so much for allowing us to take part in this. Just one question and a follow-up question. Whoever can answer this, or maybe Lieutenant, you can. We're near Silver Spring. Where are a couple of locations off the top of your head where these new cameras are in place? And then after the answer, I just have a follow-up question for either you or the county executive, please.
Well, I can take, so as far as the camera placement, the eligibility areas, which we're calling the priority areas, if you go to the website, you're going to see a map and an eligibility map. You actually get to see it. And it also gives you an area where you can put an address and tell you specifically whether or not you are in this specific part of the areas. So one thing we've told folks is, if you are not in a particular area right now, it doesn't mean it's set in stone. At least once a year, we're going to review our crime data, because this is all data driven, be objective about where we're going to create these areas, and to make sure we include those particular areas that are experiencing higher levels of crime. If that changes, we'll also adjust the program as well.
And just on a follow-up on that question, Lieutenant, I looked at the map. I didn't see where to put the addresses on. I can get all that stuff straightened out. I'll be honest with you, I'm not too far from the MARC station. Do you know, it looked like on the map that might have been one of the areas.
I'm not sure. I have to look. The graphic you saw a little bit ago, that's just a PDF copy of the map. If you go to our website, it's going to be interactive map.
Okay.
And all that, and there's a spot to put in the address.
All right. And just a follow-up question, as I mentioned, probably for the county executive, sir. You mentioned that, or you mentioned the license plate readers and are already in use. I want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yep.
And drone cameras are coming. Is that correct, sir?
The drone cameras are coming, pilot program in Silver Spring and Wheaton. The license plate readers are already in use, and they've already helped identify vehicles. They're picking vehicles that have been stolen, and it's given us a heads up and, getting ahead of the problem when we find those vehicles. Because oftentimes people drive a stolen vehicle here to commit a crime because the vehicle doesn't trace to them.
And where are the license plate readers being used right now, sir?
I don't think they're limited to just Silver Spring. I know we're buying more. Dan, do you know how many they've got out there yet?
No. I'm sorry, sir. Just for clarification, where are they being used? I mean, basically, is it safe to say that those cameras, the license plate readers, are being used countywide?
Yeah.
Yes, so I can answer this a little bit, and certainly Lieutenant can correct me. So there's a couple different ways the license plate readers are utilized. So obviously we have fixed site locations that are posted up. Typically we use borders because obviously when you're using a stolen car to commit a crime, you're often coming across county borders, whether it be coming from Virginia, DC, or Prince George's County. And so we post them up there. We also have actually some of the traffic light cameras do have LPR capabilities on them at certain intersections. And so we utilize those in certain places to identify stolen vehicles. And then the final way that we have them is actually the dashboard borne license plate readers on police cruisers, which are actively scanning as the officer drives around. We are in the process of upgrading our various patrol units, and then obviously our special units as well with those LPRs to the Axon 3, which has the LPR capability. We're doing, I believe last count I got was about 40 vehicles a month are getting upgraded at this point. And so obviously the entire police fleet will eventually have the capability of having license plate readers that are just passively scanning as they're driving around. And then they notify the officer in the cruiser if they get a hit for an LPR hit. So, ultimately, obviously the county will have pretty good coverage of LPRs across the county. And as the county executive already alluded to, they're getting hits on a daily basis for stolen vehicles or vehicles with where the owner has a warrant against them, things of that nature.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Dave. Suzanne Pollack, you had your hand up. Do you still have questions or not?
Actually, that they were answered. I wanted to see if you can get a camera in an area there are some places that you're not eligible. That's what I was checking on. But it was answered, so thanks.
Thank you very much. Members of the media, any more questions regarding the private cameras program at this time? Please raise your hand. No more questions about this topic? Going once, twice. All righty then. Thank you, Council Members Katz and Albornoz for joining us. Lieutenant Helton, thank you for joining us as well. You can remain here on this event or drop off if you need to go. Mr. County Executive, all the topics and public health update.
Yes, so, just again, thank you all for coming on today. That helps. And if you want to apply for a rebate or explore whether you live in one of the priority zones, you can visit montgomerycountymd.gov, our homepage, and you can be directed to the right location from there. Today is National Recycling Day, and I joined our Department of Environment at our transfer station this morning. Our recycling center is now doing things that it never did before. So since May, we've been accepting mattresses and box springs. And already since May, we've processed 11,000 of these. And they get broken down into their components, and it's all being recycled. The toppers, the springs, the wood frames are all getting reused and recycled, which is really good news for us. We now, we took bicycles from people before, but now we've expanded the bicycle program. Residents can go in and sign a waiver, because you have to sign a waiver to go into, a waste site like this. But you can go in and pick a bicycle if you see a bicycle in there you want. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody who says, like, I like tinkering with bikes, I can fix bikes, you can go in and you can identify bikes you want to fix, and you can take them out and you can fix them, you can sell them. So I'd like to say it's an entrepreneurial opportunity for some people. Also, we've opened the building materials facility. This stuff just used to be dumped and either headed to an incinerator or to a landfill. And we've got a building now. We're collecting doors and windows and good lumber and other things from construction. A lot of times builders will bring back something they couldn't use, or they'll be doing a renovation. They'll cut out a perfectly good window and they'll bring in the window. Instead of dumping it, they'll bring it up there so somebody else can use it. So this is the kind of expansion that we've been doing. We're doing electronic equipment. We have somebody who picks up our electronic equipment. We do medical equipment. If you've got crutches or wheelchairs or any other kind of devices that you used for, for a short period of time during, a health issue, a period of a health issue, we're taking them and we get them refurbished, and then they go out to people who need them. So we are beginning and continuing to expand what we do at the recycling center, and I'm really happy to see that we're doing this. This is all critical because otherwise these things either wind up in a landfill or getting burned. Both of them are bad environmental outcomes. Landfills aren't good, and we're running out of landfill space, and burning isn't good. It's not the best thing to do for air quality. And so we're driving, more and more efforts to reuse and recycle products that used to just be disposed of. So you'll see, we're upgrading our plastics facility to be able to separate plastic into different types of plastic and separate it by color. And why would we want to do that? Because right now when we collect plastic, you put it on a pallet, you sell it as plastic, it's not differentiated, and it gets a relatively low value. The further we process the plastic and break it into different types of plastic and colors, the more value those individual fractions of plastic have. So we're trying to increase the value of what it is we're collecting. We collect bottles today. I hope in the not too distant future, instead of recycling whole bottles, which then go to somebody who crushes them, we're going to be crushing them ourselves. Why would we want to do that? Because the cement industry has been, in Maryland anyway, required to reduce their carbon footprint. And they have very aggressive carbon footprint reduction goals. One of the cheapest and most, I'd say, easiest ways of reducing the carbon footprint is to either use crushed glass as an aggregate in concrete mixtures, or to powder the glass, basically grind it even further and use it to make the actual cement itself. And the more we process it, the higher the value it has. And it helps companies replace carbon intensive ingredients that go into cement making. So it's good for us because it gives us a product that's more sellable, and it's good for the cement industry because it helps them clean up the construction products. So those are the kind of things we're doing. Our new DEP director, John Monger, has really taken the lead and moving us forward. I'm very excited about where we're going. I did a little short vacation, I think back in the first weekend in October, and I stayed 2 extra days out in San Francisco, and I spent the entirety of my days traveling by public transportation to visit multiple municipal solid waste facilities in the South Bay down to San Jose. And so we looked at what they were doing there. We found 2 companies that were doing anaerobic digestion of their food waste and some yard waste. And one company was using the methane from the anaerobic digestion to directly generate electricity through a turbine. And another company had bought all natural gas trash trucks and was entirely fueling the trash trucks on the methane that was generated by the anaerobic digester. And at the end of it, you get a digestate from the digester that can be sold as compost. So there are a lot of good things out there, and we're going to be continuing to refine our facilities until we are able to recycle as much as is possible. And as new markets develop, we'll be recycling more things. I'll say my own personal experience. I'm probably like everybody else. I'm, an omnivore. I have mixed food waste. I get packages from, in the mail. A lot of it is plastic. And I put my trash out every week. But I'll say that because I'm in a community that recycles, all of my paper, plastic, cardboard, glass, and cans winds up going into recycling. And I do food composting. But I found it this morning, which is what made me think of it. I was going to take the trash out. I looked at the trash bag and I punched down into the top of the trash bag, and it went almost to the bottom, because the only thing in my bag most of the time is plastic films, because they're the one things we don't have a strong market for in recycling, but that market is beginning to emerge because there's increasing pressure on people to continue and expand recycling. And so we think this is going to be another aspect of our waste stream that we're going to be able to recycle and extract some monetary value for. So this is all very important to us. It's important for our climate action goals. And I'm really impressed by what I've seen. So I hope everybody will do their part on National Recycling Day. Consider doing more. If you can sign up for food composting, there are private composters in this county who operate and you can sign up for. Soon the county will be doing this as well. And it's just important for everybody to be aware of the efforts we're making. So if you're wondering what to do with the mattress now, you can bring it here and dispose of it. If you've got electronics like a stereo system that no longer works, we've got a place for it. It'll get separated into its component parts, and all those little pieces will wind up getting recycled. If you've got books that you want to get rid of, we've got a facility for it. We give a couple of nonprofits an opportunity to call the books for books that they think they can use. And for books that no one, wants to use, we can use them as paper pulp, and we get a high value for it because book paper is both clean and it is also higher value paper. So there are lots of things we're doing, lots of things we're going to do. There are opportunities for you to participate and help clean up our waste stream and make Montgomery County a more efficient and a more environmentally friendly community. This week, Diwali got underway, and before we get to our health report, I want to acknowledge there are thousands of people across Montgomery County who celebrate Diwali. Ceremonies for the Hindu festival lights are always well attended in Montgomery County, where Hindus account for about 1% of our population. This is a celebration of the triumph of light over dark. Any of us who are pondering the state of the world right now would dearly wish for the triumph of light over dark. But it's a celebration that's, part of this community. We celebrate it actively in Montgomery County. And I want to thank Governor Wes Moore and Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller for taking part in one celebration on Monday at the universities of Shady Grove. So thank you all for coming down, and I'm going to move on to the health report, which is generally good. COVID-19 continues to linger. Case rates and hospitalization numbers have barely moved from the last week. And that follows a pattern that's been with us for close to a month now. And though our community threat remains very low, so the threat's low. There's no spiking occurring. We seem to be in a decent phase right now. The latest variant has not had a horrible effect, and hopefully people are continuing to get vaccinated. I encourage everybody to take advantage of many pharmacies that are now offering the flu and COVID-19 shots together. And both shots offer a layer of protection that can keep you from getting seriously ill. Those vaccines can also protect family members that you intend to share the holidays with. So please get your vaccines soon if you already haven't done that. And all that said, I'm going to turn it over to Sean O'Donnell, the Acting Deputy Chief of Public Health, with this week's health report before taking your questions. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Okay. Taking you through, again, we have not seen much change from the previous few weeks with regard to COVID. Our wastewater is still showing moderate COVID activity spread going on throughout the community. When we look at state and local test positives, it's held relatively stable. It's elevated, but it has not moved in one direction or the other. The PCR testing is showing similar, relatively stable number of cases. When we look at our hospital numbers, the one difference here is how our respiratory diseases are affecting different ages. So as we look across the top here, you can see COVID has come down a little bit from the recent surge for many of the ages. For our 65 plus, though, it's still causing a decent number of them to go to an outpatient center, a hospital emergency department, or other outpatient center to seek treatment. If you look at the bottom, this is a plotting of Montgomery County ED visits, and you can see the COVID lines, which is in the gray here, that is stabilized as we've just discussed. But we're starting to see our RSV and our influenza visits increase. So all those things happening at the same time will impact our hospitals a bit. It just depends on how much these respiratory diseases continue to spread. Our hospital numbers did come down this week for COVID diagnoses, but you can see how these fluctuate a bit day to day. And across the state, the hospital COVID numbers went up just a little bit, but again, it's mostly been fairly stabilized over the last 2 months. One thing I want to share, this is from the CDC websites. I'm calling this moderate illness. This is these are the respiratory diseases making you sick enough to go to an emergency department or an outpatient center, but this is our national data. The one thing I want to point out is each of these 3 diseases that we've been talking about, COVID-19, RSV, and influenza, is impacting a different age group disproportionately. So the light blue here is our 65 plus. You can see that is having a greater impact, driving our seniors to seek medical attention at outpatient centers. With RSV, you can see the one group that is going in to seek medical help is largely parents bringing their under 4-year-olds. And with influenza, I know this is a little bit hard to read the numbers here, but the population it is primarily impacting is our school-age children, our 5 to 17-year-olds. So that's where we're seeing our highest rates of influenza right now. Again, we're urging caution because we're about to go into the holiday season, and that's where this influenza has a chance to spread beyond our school-age kids out to a wider group of individuals. And our seniors tend to be the ones who are most vulnerable to influenza, RSV, and COVID-19. Looking at a slightly more severe disease causing inpatients, you see again, for most age groups, there's very little cause of hospitalizations, with the 65 plus being the predominant group that is still being affected by COVID-19, causing a more severe illness. RSV that's a much, much lower level here, and that is again predominantly the under 4-year-olds. Influenza has not yet caused a significant amount of inpatient hospitalizations, but we are monitoring. You can see this time last year, we had quite a lot of influenza patients in our hospitals at multiple age groups, but predominantly, again, 65 plus. So that's why we are, again, encouraging, as our county executive said, we're encouraging everyone to get the flu shot, to get their COVID booster this year. Everyone is eligible. And for those who are 60 and above, to get their RSV shot. And you can see here, again, this is showing the light yellow is showing our influenza activity across the state for the past year. And you can see it occurred very early last year. This year, it has not yet made that big jump, but it is likely that we will see an increase in influenza at some point this fall or early winter. So those are our updates on our respiratory diseases. Just reminding folks, lots of places to get those vaccinations, and we are still distributing COVID tests at our libraries and masks at our libraries. At this point, I'd like to see if there's anything additional from our director, Dr. Bridgers, and if not, Dr. Stoddard.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Nothing in addition this afternoon.
Nothing for me as well.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Members of the media, we're going to open it up right now for questions and answers regarding public health and or any other topics. Please raise your hands. Suzanne Pollack, Montgomery Community Media. Good afternoon again, Suzanne. Go ahead. You're muted.
I just wanted, okay, can you hear me? I just, Mr. Eldridge, if you could be specific, did any companies that we might have heard of or the topic are coming to Montgomery County? If you could be a little bit more specific.
I cannot be more specific right now. I'll wait till Judy gets back with the MOUs, but most of the people we talked to were startup, early phase companies that are looking to enter the U.S. market. But when she gets back, and we'll do a fuller briefing and be able to give you a better idea of who these people are. But we're not talking about big international companies. The one company is larger and they're actually manufacturing solar pieces in India right now. That's one of the companies we're talking to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Any more questions? Members of the media, please raise your hand. No more questions? Going once? Twice? I think we're done for today. Thank everybody for joining us. Stay safe. Have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all.
All right, I want to welcome everybody to the groundbreaking for the 6th District Police